Happening right now on Sports Extra, the Falcons are back on the field as OTAs are underway. Lots of talk on Michael Penix Jr. stepping into that QB1 role for real, plus who wasn't in attendance at these voluntary practices. And the Braves dropped 2 series this week and were dealt another bad hand when it comes to injuries. We're going to search for some positives as we enter the 3rd month of the season.
Just connecting with the guys. I feel like I've done a lot better with connecting with everybody around the team, not just offensive guys, but defensive guys as well.
I'm really fired up and really pleased where he can go to the next step and take the next steps. So I just look forward to those guys doing it.
I mean, obviously we want to be out there finishing these games. I still think that we're right on the edge of, turning this thing around and playing the baseball that we can play.
It also wouldn't be sports without some overreaction, so we're going to talk about those, the biggest storylines of the week, and much more. My friends are here. Sports Extra starts now. What's up, everybody? Welcome into Sports Extra and welcome into the All 92.9 The Game Show. Hello, guys. You guys are co-workers, friends, all of the above?
Watch out. We got you outnumbered.
That is true. I am outnumbered, and I'm a little nervous now. We have my good friend Joe Patrick here, who has a brand new Falcons podcast you guys better check out. We're excited for your show.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, more to come soon.
And Caleb Johnson, too. You have all the things going on, including your air going out, so hopefully this is a little bit cooler.
Honestly, even with the studio lights, it is much cooler than it is my house right now.
Good. He's getting it fixed. Don't worry. One thing that is fixed, I think, at least so far, would be the Falcons, or at least it seems like that at this point in the season, because nothing has really happened. So what is there to fix, right? OTAs are going on, and the Falcons underway through those OTAs. What are your biggest observations from OTAs so far, Joe?
So OTAs is typically a time where your young players are just getting used to NFL practices. You're kind of getting guys, the veterans, back on the field for the first time. So I would just kind of preface this with saying that you got to kind of just, take this with a grain of salt. But I have liked to see what the Falcons defensive line rotation is looking like right now, especially with a guy like Zach Harrison, who's moving back out to the edge, even though he's a bigger body, played as a tackle a lot last year. I think there's some interesting things that Jeff Ulbrich is going to bring to this defense, and so that's really what you see at OTAs. There's no pads, there's not really any contact, not a lot of physicality, but you can see kind of where the initial pecking order in terms of the 2 deep is starting to take shape, and so that's what I'm looking forward to.
And it's voluntary, which everyone likes to freak out about. We're going to talk about that ad nauseum. One thing I love about the defensive line is Nate Ollie.
Yeah.
The new defensive line coach brings the energy and the buzz. He's going to be so much fun to work with this year. Yeah, he's incredible. Attack style defense. He loves that. And that's something that the Falcons front specifically has been missing, as we all know. One thing that's been missing, Kirk Cousins. We'll talk about that later. Michael Penix Jr. Wow, he's a lot of fun because he's re-energizing the offense and what we hope that this offense can look like. Caleb, what are your expectations for him during this voluntary period?
I think it is just acclimating with the guys. Like, this is the period in which you want to learn, hey, where do you like ball placement? What's your what is your setup as far as making your cuts and that sort of thing? It is all about becoming comfortable on the field as well as off the field. All of that communication that's happening right now is just going to help build things, because the moment that these guys step in week 1, there is no more, oh, you're a rookie, we're going to figure things out. No, the expectations are going to be there.
And do you think these high expectations for Mike are warranted? Either one of you can take that, because there's a lot on his plate right now. Even though he's not a rookie anymore, he's a second year. We still saw 3 starts out of him last year, but expectations are pretty high.
Yeah, I mean, I think so. When you look at the 3 games that he played last year, the quality of some of the throws are like world class. Like, it doesn't really get much better. And to see that not only in any 3-game sample, but the first 3-game sample that we've seen from him in his career, I mean, I think it whets everybody's appetite, no least of all the coaching staff and Zach Robinson, who's going to be leading this kind of revamped Falcons offense with Michael Penix under center. I think he's really excited about it, all the way that they can open up the field, access different areas of the field, which basically just means throw it down the field longer and get some of your playmakers out there. But even we talked to Darnell Mooney, who was really excited, and he's hoping for some more house call type of plays under this offense. Falcons.
Mike's been doing a lot of work outside the building too, which I think will only pay dividends to his weapons that love him and are obsessed with him already. Kirk Cousins not present for OTAs. This seems to be the talking point this week, the fact that he was absent for this voluntary period. Caleb, what kind of a message do you think this sends, if there even is one in that?
I think it just shows that what happened a few weeks back was all Kirk playing the game. This is all marketing for him. Now the real period comes into play where he doesn't need to be there. The Falcons, I don't think, want him there necessarily. They're all going to work towards a resolution at some point, and so no need for more of a distraction at the facility. We can leave that to all of us to kind of talk amongst ourselves, even though I know the three of us are like, we're done with this subject. It's just a matter of, can we get this thing figured out? No, it's right now, it's a game of chicken with the Atlanta Falcons and the rest of the NFL, and it didn't work out very well for Chuck and Footloose, if you remember them getting on their tractors. And I feel very concerned that it's not going to work out particularly great for the Falcons, so we just cut your losses and let's go on.
Glad you mentioned that, because it doesn't seem like there are a lot of options left for Kirk. However, there are some out there, potentially more that will show themselves as we get through this offseason period, maybe even in the fall. But what do you think his options are? What's left, Joe?
I mean, they are obviously limited. The one that's kind of sitting out there is obviously the Pittsburgh Steelers, but they seem to just kind of be waiting on Aaron Rodgers to make a decision. And, I think probably waiting for a similar reason why the Kirk Cousins is in limbo right now, which is that, these veteran quarterbacks, there's not really a huge need for them to be around at these things, especially if they already had plans to be elsewhere and they were going to miss. So anyway, it just seems like the Steelers are going to have Rodgers eventually, and that does leave the Falcons kind of holding the bag, so to speak, with Kirk. But I think ultimately, the Falcons look at this as they've already allocated a certain amount of resources toward the quarterback position. They went out and paid Kirk for what they hoped would be a longer tenure than they gave him, but then also drafted Michael Penix. Ultimately, I feel like at the end of the day, they feel like they're getting what they wanted at the quarterback position, especially coming into this year. And, they're basically willing to eat all of this, considering they feel like they nailed that position for the long term.
Obviously, timeline moved up quite a bit from what they were anticipating, but that doesn't mean that they can't just eat the money and move on. So we'll see what happens with that. But one thing we will also see about Kyle Pitts was another person that was absent from OTAs. The reports came out he was dealing with a foot injury. Nonetheless, he wasn't there. There were also a couple people not there as well. But then the trade rumors started to come out about Kyle. This happens a lot, by the way. He's a free agent next year. But a couple weeks ago, I asked offensive coordinator Zach Robinson about Kyle Pitts and his expectations for the tight end.
For Kyle, it's just how can he take that next step of, next level of details, next level of consistency, all those things that we've talked about kind of with him and have talked about in the past. And, he's in year 2 of the system. And I think the thing we've always talked about with Kyle is just play fast. No matter what, play fast. Take the thinking out involved with it. But yeah, that's more of what we're looking for from Kyle, is just that next level of understanding of the offense and just the intent of what we're trying to get done, and then ultimately just play fast no matter what. That's what we'll coach him up on when we hit the field next week, and we'll continue to coach him up.
Caleb, how much weight do you think these trade rumors actually have, if there is any weight to it at this point?
I guess they weigh as much as a pillow does, a feather, whatever you want to put on it. This is a situation where we're in the off season. There's not a whole lot going on. I think insiders and reporters have things that have been saved in their notes, for to send out on Twitter or whatever, and you just kind of scroll through and go, yeah, sure, I'll fire off this tweet. It's just a matter of, these are the same conversations that have been happening around Kyle Pitts for over a year at this point. The same value that the Falcons want in return. Clearly no one's interested, and so I think they're going to continue on. And it's so funny for them to say, yeah, we want him on our team. Of course, that's what you tell everyone else, because you're not desperate to make a move. I think Kyle he's around at least for the next season.
I also do believe that, but again, another one of these scenarios that we're going to see what happens when this plays out throughout the offseason, if it does at all. Coming up, another tough week for the Braves, 2 series losses, another injury blow. My goodness, this list is quite long. We're going to search for some of those positives. I promise there are some. That's after the break. we'll start with some of the negative. I promise there were positives, so we will get in that, but I want to give you guys some expectations before we dive in. Let's talk about their arch nemesis, the Philadelphia Phillies. Our producer, a big fan of the Phillies. I'm throwing her under the bus. The Braves dropped 2 of 3 in Philly. Caleb, not much of a surprise considering how Philadelphia is playing, but what do you think the Braves' biggest issue was up there in Philly?
Isn't it the same as it's always been, scoring runs in a game where you're able to hold them from scoring and you can get your offense going? Oh, magically you pull off a win. I think it's been interesting to know out of the Braves' last 8 wins, you've had your starter go at least 6 innings. When it's been anything less than that, it's been a loss. And there's been a lot of losses from this Braves team as of late. And, you know, we saw it again with the Red Sox series as well.
Yeah, you brought up the Red Sox series. I'll let you take this one. You've got a really cool nugget on this offense as well. So go into that because it's the bats. If you talk about what Caleb's talking about, bats are an issue pretty much in every series. There's outliers here and there. Now we're only in the 3rd month of the season, but what does it tell you about the way they're able to struggle against the Phillies and the Red Sox? It's the bats.
Yeah, it's the bats. I think that overall for this Braves team, they just don't really have an identity. They don't have an aspect of the team where I feel like they can really rely upon. You know, previous Braves teams have really been being able to rely upon a lineup that's been able to slug, hit home runs, and just produce offense. Obviously, at times in the past, it's been the starting pitching that's carried them for long periods. And so far this year, the bullpen's had its issues. What Caleb was just talking about, the offense has had its issues, and there's also a statistical anomaly going on with the Braves where when they score 3 runs or less this season, they're 2-23.
It's crazy.
Only 2 wins in games where they score 3 runs or less. Of course, you're going to have a losing record when you score 3 runs or less.
Right.
But comparing that to previous seasons, last year they were 22-50 in that situation. In 2023, they were 9-28, but they only had 37 games in which they scored 3 runs or less. That's pretty good. So this is just quite a bit of statistical anomaly that would suggest that they actually turns around just based on law of large numbers, but we'll see.
Yeah. We're waiting for something to turn around for the Braves for sure. And they're waiting for it as well. They're waiting for everything to come together. One sign indicating that it may be coming together is Ronald Acuna Jr. We will talk about that, but continuing down the negative path here. The injuries. Last year, that was the forefront of the conversation with the Braves. And again, it seems like they're running into injuries they cannot afford to have. A.J. Smith-Shawver, who was turning into be such a bright light for this rotation, 60-day IL for him. When you're using the words pop, it's not a good thing. Then Stuart Fairchild also placed on the 10-day IL. Caleb, what's your biggest concern when it comes to those guys not being a part of the team right now?
It's because there's no one behind them. Like, this is not a team built with a ton of depth. They were already beat up coming into the season. You now are losing another starting pitcher, which I don't want to put a ton of blame on Brian Sicker. I don't want to be that person. However, when you have to have Spencer Strider run over and say, hey, I think something is wrong with AJ, that's an issue. Then you have Nick Allen getting hit at the plate and he has to miss a game. Like, it's just so much of this is building up that we keep leaning to 2021. I think every Braves fan is like, well, in 2021 it all worked out and everything was fine, even though we dealt with all of these injuries. Maybe that was outside of the norm. We did standard deviations in high school. Like, those were the outliers, not the norm, and we need to come to grips with that.
I know that was the unfortunate thing, is the way that it all played out in 2021 when they won the World Series. I don't know that that's going to be replicated again. I hope it is, because they were one of the worst teams in baseball. All of a sudden they turn into World Series champs.
And it was right around this time of year where that team really started to turn. I actually remember exactly where I was. It was right at the beginning of June. And, could that happen again? I guess it possibly could. But even looking right now, you're in 4th place now in the NL East. There are so many teams. I think there's like 5 or 6 teams that the Braves basically need to be better than from this point of the season to the end if they want to even make the last wild card spot.
They can be better than the Rockies. That's not a hard thing to do. So there was a positive for you.
Yeah.
Let's go with another one, because Spencer Schwellenbach, he has been another bright light. 25th birthday for him yesterday. I'm old now. He touched 100 a few times when he was pitching. He also matched his career high 11 strikeouts over 6 1/3. How have you seen Spencer evolve as a pitcher, Caleb?
I think the thing for him is his big name to his game is throwing strikes. And we were literally a week ago talking about, well, he's throwing too many strikes. And even Brian Sticker came out and said, yeah, he's leaving too much over the plate. This time around, he was so sharp with the pitches that he was making that he gets in the strike zone. He has 2 straight starts of not walking a batter. It's not been done. I think I saw it in like 14 years for the number of innings that he's pitched. It's just been incredibly impressive from a young guy. However, when he's touching 100 and he comes out after the game and says, "Oh yeah, I was trying to get there," the worry wart in me is like, oh, we just had a guy go out with an arm injury. Can we please not have that happen again?
Dial it back just a smidge. We know you're trying, just a little bit. Someone who we don't want to dial back would be Ronald Acuna Jr. We have been missing him terribly, I think, in this lineup. When you got 3 home runs since your return to Major League Baseball, he's just returned exactly how we know Ronnie can be. How much of a juice and an impact does Ronnie bring when he's back, Joe?
I mean, I think we knew that he was going to bring excitement, and especially to the clubhouse as well. But I think that there was question marks as to just how much power, explosiveness there was going to be to his game, and that's why I think it was so encouraging to see him already hitting home runs, where we saw him take a while when he came back from his first ACL injury. He's OPSing I think 1.1 something at this point, and again, it's only been like 8 or 9 games that he's been in the lineup, but that is great to see, because that's what this Braves offense needs. It's funny, he's come into the lineup, obviously been the best hitter for this team since he's returned, and he's basically, there's been no help really, or very little around the rest of this offense. So when I go back to those Braves teams, especially like that 2021 team in the second half of the season, you had danger throughout that lineup. Dansby Swanson hitting in the bottom of the lineup, that's what this team does not have right now. It feels like if you're not getting it from the top of your order, you're just not really having much offensive production at all.
That's a really good point. Still can't help but be excited when you see him go yard on the first pitch he sees when he returns. That was nuts. All right, coming up, people love to overreact to things that they see these days, especially when it comes to sports. Yes, he's pointing at himself. We're going to overreact or maybe underreact to some things after the break. Time for Joe's favorite segment. It's time to overreact. Let's do it. It's sports, people. We overreact all the time. And Braves fans, no offense, you guys like to do this a lot. You haven't been very happy with manager Brian Snitker. They also have told everyone on X, formerly known as Twitter, that they believe that his retirement is inevitable. Brian Snitker. Overreaction or not? Caleb.
Well, Maria, given the fact that I was one of those people this past weekend who said,
ringleader over here,
who tweeted out that I think his retirement is inevitable. Look, I think what Brian Snitker has done for this organization has been incredible. But him not knowing that yesterday it was Spencer Schwellenbach's birthday just kind of was in line with A.J. Smith-Shawver, was in line with everything that went on previous to that, and not pulling a batter who didn't run to first. It's just been an entire season of like, hey, maybe Grandpa's kind of getting up there, and love him, appreciate everything he's done, but maybe it's time.
Wow, that was painful.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
I will say everyone's retirement, I hope, is inevitable. So maybe we can phrase it that way. Let's talk about Atlanta United for a second. This is this guy's forte. They won 2 matches in a row before that win streak was snapped. And all of a sudden, Five Stripes fan base is going, we're back. It's happening. Overreaction or not?
I actually don't think it's a huge overreaction. I wouldn't say we're back. I wouldn't say we're back. I wouldn't go that far, but I would say I think that those 2 wins gave them something to cling on to, especially tactically. Alexei Miranchuk, the Russian designated player, has really struggled to get going. But I think in this new formation that Ronnie Dyla has set up with a back 3, I think he's finding a little bit more space, a little bit more joy. You're starting to see the production. He had several assists in those 2 games span. Miguel Almiron's still not going, though. That's a big problem. He's been among this team's worst players so far this season, which I don't think anybody expected, and he was, kind of at fault, frankly, for the loss they had against Red Bulls this past weekend. But, that's a tough place to play. I didn't necessarily expect them to win that game regardless. Tough week. So I'm actually encouraged by this team still getting those 2 wins.
This is going a lot differently than I thought it was going to. You guys are either a little aggressive or not aggressive at all. So let's switch to the NBA Finals and see where Caleb goes with this one. 2 small market teams, Pacers and Thunder. A lot of mixed reactions on there online. I didn't do a deep dive of your social media, so I don't know what you're saying. But a lot of people are saying this matchup is going to be boring. Overreaction or not?
It's a complete overreaction, because this is a series in which, you don't have the stars that you're more used to, but it's about time we get some fresh faces in here. If you want exciting offense and 3-point shooting and really good lockdown defense, that's what you're going to get between the Thunder and the Pacers. Like, that is why these 2 teams are playing at this point. And so I think, if you want really incredible basketball, you're getting it between these 2 teams. If you want your usual face of the league, your LeBrons, your Jason Tatum's. Like, yeah, you're not getting that this time around, but it's about time we bring in some fresh faces.
I'm with you. I don't think it's an overreaction. I also love the way the Pacers play basketball. I think it's going to be a very fun series. Let's talk about the Stanley Cup Finals, because that matchup locked in. It's between the Edmonton Oilers and, of course, my Florida Panthers. This won't be any fun, says a lot of fans, when there is a rematch in the finals. I think it's an overreaction. What do you think, Joe?
I thought you were going to honestly say this is not fun for me as a fan watching my team in a championship series. It's sometimes it's more stressful than anything.
Oh, I'll take it.
But no, I mean, this is a great 7-game series last year that the Florida Panthers, of course, took home the title.
They won.
So I'm hoping for your sake that happens again, because I don't really have a rooting interest. But I kind of do, just again, as a neutral, I kind of hope it goes to 7 games again, because there's nothing better than Stanley Cup hockey.
As a neutral and a friend of Maria Martin, he hopes that the Florida Panthers win this one, and I will be in South Florida if there is a parade this year.
Nice.
All right, guys, up next, we're going to talk about Maria's Minute. Hang with us. For tonight's Maria's Minute, I want to discuss Michael Penix Jr. stepping into the role as QB1 for the Falcons. While there is no denying that this entire quarterback scenario has been an absolute disaster by the Falcons, I think that ultimately they're going to come out as winners here, because I genuinely believe that Mike is that guy. But with that being said, I hope the Falcons fans really exercise a little bit of patience with Mike. It's inevitable for most rookies to have some bumps, unless your name is Jaden Daniels. Mike is one of the biggest components to whether or not the Falcons are not only successful this year, but for years to come. And there's a lot riding on that. How can we be so confident about a guy that we've only seen 3 starts out of in the NFL? It's what I've seen in training camp and OTAs that make me think that Mike is poised to make a splash in 2025. Guys, thanks for being with us each and every Sunday. We will see you next weekend. Have a lovely week.